Hello and welcome back to Crypto Saving Experts, where we talk about the latest cryptocurrency news and take a look at the markets so that we all know exactly what is happening. My name is Jess and we do these live streams every single weekday, so make sure to like, subscribe and hit that bell notification button so you don't miss the latest cryptocurrency news. We've got lots to discuss today. Bitcoin has just touched the $45,000 level once again off the back of some excitement coming with those spot Bitcoin ETFs. We did see this last week as well. On Monday when the markets opened, we did see a nice move to the upside, and we are now seeing it again today in anticipation of the changes coming later in this week on Wednesday. Now we're going to be discussing the latest developments when it comes to these spot Bitcoin ETFs. We have spoke about them a lot here on the channel, but there's been quite a few developments over the weekend that we do need to be discussing today, so we're not just talking about the same old stuff here. We've got some new things coming in today's stream, so make sure to pay attention. Like, subscribe, hit the bell notification button. Let's take a look at what's going on in the markets today. First of all, we've got Bitcoin up 2%. We've got Ethereum up 0.8%. We've got Bitcoin Wrapped, BNB, in the top trending for the day. In terms of biggest gainers, we're looking at Stacks, Internet, ICP, SEI, and Bitcoin there. And in terms of biggest losers, we've got 1inch, USDN, HNT, and IOTA. Now, if we take a look at what's actually going on in the markets right now, in fact, I will pull this up. Bitcoin, crypto, let's see if I can type crypto market bubbles. Let's pull this up because this is really interesting. If you take a look at what's going on here, you can see things haven't been great in the markets here. If you look at the daily changes here, it's looking pretty red. There are some greens, there are some nice movements to the upside, but it is looking pretty red. So we do need to be aware of that. The altcoins aren't performing too well. We are all looking at Bitcoin instead this week and anticipation of those spot Bitcoin ETFs. We will talk about that later in today's video. But at the end of today's video, or in fact now, let's talk about it. I want to talk about the shifts that are happening in the markets. We have 4-year cycles when it comes to cryptocurrency, and altcoins aren't performing too well right now. We did see a slight surge around the start of December. We saw some of these altcoins performing incredibly well. Solana performed incredibly well. Chainlink popped eventually after being stuck under a resistance for under 500 days, I think it was. Some of these altcoins had started to perform really well, but what we're seeing now is some dips in the markets, some pullbacks in the markets as everybody in anticipation tries to front run the acceptance of these ETFs and tries to move their funds into Bitcoin. Now, this is typically what we see in the markets. When we talk about what's going on here, I always say, and I have been saying since the bottom of the bear market, I'm investing into Bitcoin. I'm dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin because if we look on the biggest scale of things, Bitcoin performs the best at the start of the cycle. And then when Bitcoin really starts to see those gains, after a while, it starts to fade into the high cap coins, then the mid cap coins, and then the low cap coins. What we're seeing right now is excitement around Bitcoin, and then slowly that will shift. But right now we are seeing some pullbacks into the altcoins. And right now is really the time where I'm starting to see, I've been waiting for the Bitcoin ETFs and the Bitcoin halving before I start to diversify. So we're seeing some dips right now. If these ETFs get accepted and Bitcoin absolutely skyrockets as a lot of us anticipate, then after that nice move to the upside, I am expecting a pullback when it comes to Bitcoin and for some altcoins as well. And that is when I'm really starting to look to diversify. So we are seeing slight moves to the downside here. I think there could be more to come. And we are seeing news from analysts here today. If I pull this up, we've got an article here today, which is Arthur Hayes predicts a 20 to 30% drop in Bitcoin after Q1. So he's saying, yes, there may be some positivity here when it comes to the ETFs and all of this kind of stuff. But after Q1, maybe there will be a pullback. Now, we've actually been anticipating here on the channel for a while that, yes, if Bitcoin ETFs are launched, it can be really, really bullish for Bitcoin. But after that initial surge to the upside, it is expected that we could see a bit of a move to the downside, and that surge and that volatility is something I'm trying to take advantage of here. But Arthur Hayes is saying that we could see a 20 to 30% drop in Bitcoin after Q1. He's discussed the key dates in March for the BTFP and the Fed's interest rate decision. So it expires on the 12th of March. This is the Reserve Repo Program Bank Term Funding Program and the Fed interest rates that we're looking at here. So we're looking at several macroeconomic factors, and he's suggesting, look, Bitcoin could see a pullback. I would like to highlight though, if Bitcoin does see a 20 to 30% pullback in Q1, that is not the end of the bull market. We see these kind of pullbacks over and over again in a bull market. If we take a look at what happened to Bitcoin in the last bull market, you can see that it does have big pullbacks of 20 to 30% a number of times in a bull market. When we see these moves to the downside, it is often seen as an opportunity, not as the end of the bull market. People that are new to cryptocurrency may consider it to be the end of the bull market, but it does seem to come back. For example, this is the 2020 bull market. You can see there was a pullback here of 17%. There was a pullback here of 32%. There was a pullback here of, let's see where this one was, 25%. And there are many other pullbacks here in the middle. In fact, we've got another one here. Let's see how much this one was. This was of 17%. So you can see we do have pullbacks of this size numerous times in a bull market. I wouldn't be surprised if we get many, many more in the next bull market, as long as we know how to trade them and take advantage of them. They are opportunities at the end of the day. But we do need to be prepared for that. Just because the ETFs get accepted and we start to see some nice bullish momentum doesn't mean Bitcoin's going to move in a straight line for the rest of 2024. Expect volatility along the way. It is an exciting time for cryptocurrency, but be prepared for that. Let's take a look at what else is going on in the cryptocurrency markets right now. I want to continue to talk about these spot Bitcoin ETFs because it is pretty exciting right now. What we've got is this ETF deadline on Wednesday this week, the 10th of January, the date we have been waiting for. Hopefully we get some good news coming in. I want to talk about the changes that have been made over the weekend. First of all, we are seeing a lot of these applicants issue their S1, which is said to be the final application kind of form and formal thing they need to do before these ETFs can go live. Now, what we've seen first of all is some changes in the charges when it comes to these ETFs. So when we've all been looking at these ETFs so far, we've been saying, yes, they're a brilliant opportunity. They can bring in a new wave of investors when it comes to retail investors, institutional investors. It means that these issuers need to market Bitcoin as an investment product. The CEO of BlackRock has said that Bitcoin is an international asset and is like digital gold. All of these companies have gone so bullish on Bitcoin, want to get investors into their products and into their ETFs. So there is a huge amount of exposure for Bitcoin there. But we have all been saying, look, we're all gonna, if you're in crypto now, you may as well stay buying the actual Bitcoin because you get self-custody, you don't need to pay extortionate fees, and we have the benefits of being our own bank. Now, buying an ETF, yes, it's brilliant and it gets that exposure, but you don't actually have custody of your own assets, and that's why we're all in crypto in the first place. But one of those really key things we pointed out is the fees are going to be high, but that's changed. So we all thought the fees were going to be high, like on every other ETF, because these ETF issuers make their money from the fees, from the transaction fees of buying and selling the asset. But these issuers have seen there is going to be competition in the market. So these issuers are all acting as if they know there will be simultaneous acceptance here and all of the ETFs will get accepted at once. Now, if that's the case, the 10th of January is looking very, very positive. The reason as to why they are expecting simultaneous acceptance is because there is a fear when it comes to first mover advantage. The first ETF that goes live in the markets first may get that wave of investment that the others could have had they been the first. There is a massive first mover advantage here. So when we're looking at this, we can see they are getting more and more competitive as time goes on. I've pulled up a tweet here so we can take a look. BlackRock and ARK have slashed their Bitcoin ETF fees. ARK have gone down to 0.8% to 0.25%, and BlackRock have gone down to 0.2% for the first 12 months or first 5 billion AUM. The fight for customers has started. Now, what else have we seen here that is of interest? We've got another one here. Let's see where we can find this. Where have I just seen this? Here we go. BlackRock to charge 0.2% for first $5 billion. ARK to waive fee for the first $1 billion in assets into the ETF. You can see there's competition here to get investors into their products. If there's 10 Bitcoin ETFs in the market, what makes you decide which one to invest into? The first answer is the fees. If one is charging more fees than the other, you're going to go for the one that's cheaper because you want the most of the underlying asset. It's that simple. Now, they wouldn't be competing so much and lowering their fees so much in comparison to other ETFs if they didn't think that competition was there. Now, competition is there if there is high demand, and that is why we have got so excited about the markets this morning. This is probably why we are seeing Bitcoin surge above $45,000 once again. If we're seeing that demand expectation from the issuers of these ETFs, then we can be very excited about what's to come here. We've also seen These ETF applicants have updated their S1 filings with the SEC within minutes of each other today on the 8th of January, this Monday, and we are all preparing to see some hopefully positive news on Wednesday. We will be live here every single day this week talking about what's going on in the market, so make sure to stay tuned. We will try and go live as soon as the news comes out here about those spot Bitcoin ETFs, and we'll be talking in the next few days about what to expect. Like, things could go absolutely crazy here, and we need to be all together as a community discussing what's going on, because if the price is surging, things kind of go crazy. It's a bit hard to understand what's going on. It will be as full of excitement, so make sure to tune in every single day and we will talk through what's going on in the news and what to expect. But let's take a look at what else is going on when it comes to these spot Bitcoin ETFs. Aside from this news, when it comes to the competition and the demand and the change in fees for these ETF issuers, we are also seeing some problems that could occur with a spot Bitcoin ETF. Now, this has been highlighted nicely on Twitter by Crypto T, and this is about the fact that these exchanges, when it comes to companies like this, do have trading halted or paused when there is volatility in the market. So you can see here the stock market literally halts trading when prices drop or increase rapidly. If the S&P 500 drops 7%, 15-minute trading halt. If it drops 13%, there's a 15-minute halt. And if it drops 20%, there's a market closes for the day. So if the market drops heavily one day, you won't be able to buy or sell Bitcoin ETFs. Now, we did actually see when the whole GameStop stock thing happened, when things went absolutely crazy. We did see trading get stopped or halted multiple times in 21 and 2022. Now, we all know that Bitcoin is an incredibly volatile asset, so it's really interesting to see if these rules do actually get applied to the spot Bitcoin ETF, but so far we have no reason to believe it won't. So we do need to be prepared here. If you are looking to trade and invest in the spot Bitcoin ETF over Bitcoin, you do have some more limitations. As I just said, if you're into cryptocurrency, if you understand self-custody and you do want to be your own bank, buying the underlying asset, buying Bitcoin directly, in my opinion, is much better than buying these spot Bitcoin ETFs, because we are all in Bitcoin for self-custody, for being our own bank and controlling our own assets. Buying these ETFs is just handing that power back. So I definitely will be investing into Bitcoin over these ETFs, as well as the point of these ETF fees still being much higher than actually buying the underlying assets, not being able to make peer-to-peer payments, and the fears here when it comes to others having control over whether you can trade your assets for a set period of time. This is something that we do need to consider, and not something that many people have considered when it comes to these ETFs so far. Let's take a look at what else we have here, because we are talking about investors getting into the markets as well when it comes to spot Bitcoin ETFs. Now, there are multiple things to be excited about when it comes to these ETFs going live. First of all, we have retail investors, so people like you and me. A lot of people in a bull market want to invest into cryptocurrency and into Bitcoin, but they shy away because they don't know how. They're worried about centralized exchanges, especially after seeing FTX in the mainstream media. They don't know how to do self-custody. They don't know how to just sign up and purchase them in the first place. So a lot of people shy away. If they have the opportunity to get that exposure to the markets through a spot Bitcoin ETF, it makes it a lot easier, and some people that would have otherwise shied away and chosen not to invest at all can still get exposure to the space and invest in Bitcoin. So there's a massive win when it comes to retail investors getting involved. We also have institutional investors who will have the ability to invest a huge sum of money into Bitcoin. We've already seen a number of funds registered as securities changing their documentation, saying, look, we want to be able to get exposure to Bitcoin, whether that's through the spot Bitcoin ETF, Bitcoin futures ETFs, or through Bitcoin trusts like Grayscale's Bitcoin Trust. We've seen a number of funds already changing their documentation to prepare for that. And we're not talking small percentages there. We've seen funds say, look, we want to be able to allocate 15 to 50% of our portfolio to Bitcoin related products, and preparing for these ETFs to go live. So there's a huge demand from institutional investors as well. And we are seeing in this tweet more about financial advisors. Now, what's happening here? So there are over 620,000 SEC licensed investment professionals in the US. And this person who's actually wrote this tweet is a licensed investment professional. So thousands of broker dealers, and there are over 15,000 registered investment advisors. want to get into Bitcoin. So there's thousands of family office managers, brokers, financial advisors, and RIAs, mostly not involved in Bitcoin or well versed on it, but they will be. Things will change radically for several reasons. So, financial advisors follow the money and follow the trends. Advisors are smart about money, motivated to learn. They need to keep up with what customers and the public is talking about. There is pent-up professional desire by advisors who like Bitcoin or are a bit curious, but who can't justify the time to focus on it due to focus on products they are allowed to offer and make a living from. They like to make money and do well for clients. They believe in well-balanced, blended portfolios. So you can see here the advantages here. Here's an even bigger one. These big investment firms will spend billions marketing these Bitcoin-based investments to their clients. And this is something we've been discussing a lot here. So what we're going to see is personal investors. I mean, I've spoken to investors before, financial advisors, that I've questioned them about cryptocurrency, and they've said, yeah, we're not allowed to invest in it, we don't spend time on it, maybe when we are allowed to, we'll look into it closer, and that wave is coming. So if you're focusing on 10 things and you have the 11th thing, which is Bitcoin, but you can't even offer it to your clients anyway, you're probably just going to ignore it for the time being. And that's been going on and on and on. But as time is going on, if we bring that asset into the options of available investments, they're going to want to learn about it, and they're going to understand it even more. And they will have no choice to educate themselves on it and get excited and expose some of their clients to cryptocurrency and to Bitcoin. So very interesting stuff here. Hopefully we do see a nice wave from financial advisors as well. We are talking here about institutional retail investors getting into the space. It's all very, very exciting of what's to come here. Let's take a look at what else is going on in the markets though, because I want to move on from the spot Bitcoin ETFs. I know we're all very excited about what's to come on Wednesday or before Wednesday. We need to be prepared because something is about to change in the markets, and we've all been waiting for this for such a long time. Fingers crossed it is positive. One thing I would like to highlight is the SEC do have the option to reject this ETF application that has a deadline on January the 10th. To understand what's happened, basically we've had a number of applicants say they want to launch a spot Bitcoin ETF. BlackRock, Fidelity, VanEck being a couple. Now the SEC have 4 deadlines by which they need to decide whether they're going to accept or reject these ETF applications. When it gets to the final deadline, they can no longer delay their decision. They need to say, yes, you can launch your product, or no, you cannot. Now, there was a lot of anticipation for the 15th of March because there's a huge amount of final deadlines on that date, but we have one single ETF application deadline that is before that, and that is on the 10th of January. So the SEC have a couple of options here. They could simultaneously accept all of these ETF applications on the 10th of January and let them all go live at once, which is something that is seen as highly likely at this point in time because all of these applicants have had meetings with the SEC, they've all amended their documents numerous times, and they've tried to play fairly with the SEC and create their applications into something that the SEC want and have discussed with them. So they've all been amending their applications to get it as good as possible before this date on Wednesday. So there is some hope that we do see simultaneous of acceptance of these ETFs on Wednesday. If we don't see that, then there will need to be some reason as to why the SEC does not allow this application that has the final deadline on the 10th of January from going live. Now, I find it very hard to see a reason as to why the SEC can reject this. We already know that if the SEC pull out a fake reason as to why, or not a valid reason as to why, an invalid reason, I should say, as to why this ETF should not go live, they could end up in court. And if they lose a lawsuit regarding these spot Bitcoin ETFs as well, they could lose a huge amount of respect once again from the markets. So I think the SEC will be very cautious and they will need a very good reason as to why to reject these ETFs. There's a lot of analysts suggesting that these ETFs, there's like a 90% certainty that these ETFs will launch on the 10th of January, but you have to be prepared for the opposite scenario as well. Obviously, as I said, a huge amount of expectations here. It's very hard for the SEC to reject this ETF and then accept the others on the 15th of March. It would need that for that scenario to happen. It would need to be that the other ETFs can change what this current ETF has in it before that deadline, or this ETF filing has something that the other 9 don't. And I just find that very hard to imagine. So We are waiting for the SEC's decision here. It is in control of the regulators, but I do think spot Bitcoin ETFs are a matter of when, not if. They will be coming soon. It's just a matter of when, and when they do come, we do have that huge amount of demand coming from institutional investors, retail investors, and we already have companies like Bitwise making huge campaigns for Bitcoin as an asset to invest into. We've seen BlackRock's CEO being super bullish on the asset, and there is going to be a huge amount of money pushed into the marketing for spot Bitcoin ETFs. We're already seeing the companies that are trying to issue these ETFs compete with each other, trying to lower their fees. So if they're being competitive now when it comes to the fee structure, imagine how much they're going to push into their marketing to try and be the leading spot Bitcoin ETF. It is going to be absolutely crazy if these ETFs get to launch into the market. These companies are fighting for adoption. They're fighting for investors to choose their ETF over others. They want as much money to be poured into these ETFs as possible. So their marketing budget is going to be high, and they're going to be trying to convince people, look, this ETF is worth investing into. There's a huge opportunity here, and this will change cryptocurrency forever if these ETFs get launched on Wednesday. So be prepared for that. Now let's take a look at what else we are looking at here, because there's been another significant change in cryptocurrency over the weekend, and this is that somebody has transferred $1.2 million into Satoshi's wallet. Now, Satoshi is the creator of Bitcoin. Nobody knows who it is or whether it's a group of people, but Satoshi has been sent $1.2 billion. Now, there is I believe there has been, this guy has some sort of thing. Let's take a look at this. We are seeing here that the effective date, there is a law from the IRS which says that if you are sent over $10,000 in cryptocurrency, you have to report it. Now, pretty interesting here. This transaction now means that Satoshi has to either dox himself, so give away his identity, or break the law. Now, there's a lot of fear when it comes to Satoshi in the cryptocurrency space. It is feared that if Satoshi Nakamoto is named and he doxes himself, everybody finds out who the creator of Bitcoin actually was, we'd see a massive crash in the markets, because I think not knowing who he is, really, it is beneficial for this space, and there is fear here that if we did find out who Satoshi was, there would be a crash in the markets here. Now, when it comes to this kind of thing here, I don't think Satoshi Nakamoto is going to stand forward because of the new IRS rules. I just don't think that is the scenario here. I think this has created a slight amount of fear in the markets. It's created a headline at the end of the day. It is crazy that whoever sent this amount of money chose to send $1.2 million instead of $11,000, because the same rule would apply. But it's very interesting that somebody has chosen to do this. I can't see a reason as to why you would do this. There is no answer. Satoshi Nakamoto has not sent any cryptocurrency out of that wallet for a long period of time. They have not made any movements. There used to be a Bitcoin forum where Satoshi would discuss things about Bitcoin. He no longer does that. They have stayed completely offline. It's just crazy that you choose to send that much Bitcoin. 26 Bitcoin. Absolutely crazy. Let's take a look at what else is going on in the markets here. Whale risks losing $76 million on Ethereum Bitcoin weakness. So a whale could see a considerable trade liquidated if the Ethereum Bitcoin weakness continues. Let's take a look at this, because this is interesting. This is something I've been discussing for a very long time. When you take a look at the markets on the bigger time frames, it is common to see Bitcoin outperform Ethereum up until the Bitcoin halving. We've seen it over and over again. Let's see if we can pull the Bitcoin halving indicator up on here. So if we take a look at the Bitcoin halving events, there we go. What you can see is up until the Bitcoin halving, Bitcoin tends to outperform Ethereum. So when this chart is moving down, Bitcoin is outperforming Ethereum, and when this chart is moving up, Ethereum is outperforming Bitcoin. What you can see is in the previous cycle here, clearly, Bitcoin was outperforming Ethereum, and then up until just around that Bitcoin halving, things changed, and it really was time for high cap coins to move to the upside, and we saw those huge gains there. Now, what we've seen here is Bitcoin has been outperforming Ethereum since around September 2022, and this is why I've been heavily investing into Bitcoin, choosing to kind of stay away from other assets, and I'm now slowly taking my time to look to diversify a little bit more and invest in a wider range of assets. But right now I am heavily still into Bitcoin, and this will change following the ETFs. I mean, if the ETFs get accepted, brilliant. We could see a really nice move to the upside. And then I will be looking to take some profits, waiting for a pullback to start to diversify into high cap coins. If, however, these ETFs get rejected and we see a big move to the downside, Bitcoin, when we move to the downside, Bitcoin holds its value typically a lot better than altcoins. So either way, I prefer to be in a Bitcoin position. I also choose to invest in the mindset of not looking at the dollar value, but looking at the Bitcoin value. So investing in Bitcoin is something I can do and not really think too much of and not get emotional with my investments. But when I invest in altcoins, I do get a little bit more emotional. So I just choose to stay away from that. That's personal preference there. But some changes are happening in the market. Ethereum is still being outperformed by Bitcoin. I think following these ETF in the coming days, there could be some big shifts here and we could see some nice opportunities when it comes to altcoins again. But as I said, in the last 24 hours, altcoins have not looked too good. Let's take a look at what else is going on in the markets here. The next generation of crypto should focus on real world applications, according to the Tether CEO. So he has said his belief that the next generation of cryptocurrencies should look at building real world applications while focusing on the key attributes of cryptocurrencies. And we are also seeing a Bitcoiner spends $64,000 to inscribe 9 megabytes data into the Bitcoin blockchain. So they're inscribing 332 ordinals comprising 9 megabytes of data to the Bitcoin blockchain. If we take a look at this, as reported on the 7th of January by Ord.io on Twitter, more than 1 Bitcoin was spent on fees in the process of adding the data to the blockchain. Despite the substantial effort, the meaning of this data remains a mystery. Some have theorized that the data may be encrypted, meaning it would be challenging, if not impossible, to decode the data's true meaning fully. The encrypted data comprises a mix of English, Greek, and mathematical symbols, adding complexity to the puzzle. So very interesting here of what's going on. A huge transaction fee there to inscribe into the Bitcoin blockchain. We're seeing more and more of this as ordinals increase in popularity. Let's take a look at what's going on in the live chat right now. Because I just have rambled for a very long time there. Let's pull up the price of Bitcoin and see what's going on there. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification button so you don't miss the latest cryptocurrency news. We will analyze the price of Bitcoin in just a second, look at some key levels of support and resistance. But what I want to do now is check in with the live chat. We didn't even put a like goal on today's stream. We've got 58 viewers on today's stream and on YouTube, and we have 25 likes. Please don't forget, if you are enjoying today's stream, to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification button so you don't miss the latest cryptocurrency news. We do these live streams every single weekday. We have done since December 2022. That is absolutely crazy. So make sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell notification button. 2024 is the year we get 100,000 subscribers. Let's take a look at what's going on in the chat. PG says, "You are so sensible. I wish I had kept everything in Bitcoin for safety." I think this is something that sometimes I think I'm too sensible. There is some people that take bigger risks in this market and they make a huge amount more profits. It's a difficult one to choose between. I've been burnt in these markets before, and I am now super sensible when it comes to my investments, but I do miss out on opportunities that I see other people around me taking advantage of. So I think I'm more of a conservative investor. I like to stay up to date with what's going on in the news. I like to analyze and trade Bitcoin and Ethereum, but when it comes to altcoins, my confidence is lacking. Whereas we see other people in the markets like Spud, who did a couple of these live streams and is going to continue to do some of these live streams, who has that confidence when it comes to altcoins. He finds them, he invests in them, and he does some really nice trades. So there are different types of traders in the markets. Don't expect to be all of them at once. I've kind of accepted that trading in altcoins and dipping in and out and finding little meme gems every single day is not my forte. I prefer to stick to what I know, and that is absolutely fine. Let's take a look at what else is going on here. James says, not if the person that sent it owed it to Satoshi. It was 26 Bitcoin, and if he's not American, he doesn't have to say a word. Sending 26 Bitcoin to Satoshi is the same as sending it to a burnt wallet, in my opinion. I completely agree, Nick. I think sending that Bitcoin to Satoshi does absolutely nothing. I will be extremely surprised if Satoshi Nakamoto, the guy that did everything to hide his identity, who has not touched his Bitcoin wallet in years and who has completely moved away from every Bitcoin forum, chooses to dox himself to stay in line with the IRS and report his Bitcoin holdings. That would be absolutely insane. And you know what? If that happened, Bitcoin deserves to go to zero. If we have a creator that does something like that, I mean, where are we? What are we doing? Let's take a look at what's going on here. James says trade what you know exactly. That's what I like to do. We can all get burned in these markets and my New Year's resolution is to be a little bit more adventurous when it comes to investments and take a little bit more risk. I think that's important. You don't want to miss out too much on the bull market, but in the bigger scheme of things, when it comes to your main portfolio, I think looking at previous cycles and looking at the markets and how it's performed is really, really important. Don't do things like this blindly. Look at the data all of the time, and that is how I get the best results. But that is all we really have for today's stream. That's been a brilliant stream. We've got 50 viewers on the stream right now. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification button. We will be back tomorrow with another cryptocurrency news update. So thank you very much for tuning in. As always, we will be back here tomorrow. So I hope to see you all.